All right,
Is
everybody.
Eli gets headphones? So.
Yeah, I got them.
All right, we got Eli with his headphones, and everyone is here today. We are having a very special 500th episode today. Thank you so much to all the people who are joining us, and we can start from the top. We're having pretty much the plan for today is have fun, kind of relaxed political discussion. We're going to be talking a little bit tonight about like broader gun laws and the philosophy about how the United States government should handle dealing with guns. And the second topic, we're going to be talking about, woke culture. Is identity politics crowding out other things in our political sphere and our political landscape? And third topic, since we have most people, or just we can have a broader discussion about like the best ways to advance, working class politics. I gotta say, broadly, everyone would say they're kind of sympathetic towards that aim, but I do want to start today's show by the most important thing, is always good introductions. So I want to go through all of our panelists that we have here today and do a little bit of an introduction and thank them for coming on. We can start with Zach Lifschutz, and the plan I want to have today is just keep it quick, keep it brief. Pretty much it's kind of an identifiable thing for everybody, your political compass sector and your name, and maybe a little bit about your kind of politics.
All right, so I'm going first.
Yes.
I mean, I'm on the podcast all the time. I feel like I don't really need to introduce myself. But
yeah, you just
if I have to pick a quadrant, I guess I'm the green quadrant, bottom left. I'd consider myself probably just a leftist, I guess like social democratic socialist, if I had to get like a little bit more specific, but I do have some disagreements with them, so I just like to call myself a leftist.
All right, and James Weld.
My political compass is very, very much in the lib left green. I label myself like a leftist as well. Like pragmatically, I believe in like socially democratic policies, but in like an ideal after, that's like the vanguard towards market socialism is like my ideal.
This dude's base as hell.
Yeah, right.
All right. And Eli Brown, what's your spot in the political compass?
Definitely the yellow one. I would define myself as a free market capitalist.
Hello.
All right, we have joining us, surprise. I did not expect this coming. Joining us today, we have Kate Henjes. Welcome to the show, Kate. We're pretty much joining right in time for some introductions. So,
all right,
you can go right through it, and pretty much the plan is just your name. And since we figure it's an easily identifiable trait for everyone kind of associated with politics, where is your spot on the political compass?
Sure. So my name is Kate Henjes, and my spot is sort of just generally sort of lib left on the political compass. I'm not really big in a political compass. Usually I just describe myself as a sort of social democrat, but yeah, that's me.
All right, and moving down the list, last but not least, we have Kenan Oktay.
Hi, I'm Kenan. I'm also a lib-lefter, except I'm probably more left-wing than most people here. I probably describe myself as a socialist, probably ideally market socialist society, like James said. But there's a few issues that I'm more agree with. I would say libertarians, like for example, gun issues.
All right, yeah, so that should be kind of an interesting starting point because that is our actually the planned starting point that we had. So this is kind of interesting. We all do have very similar spots on the political spectrum, but I picked these topics specifically because I know there is some disagreement here, and one is definitely with guns, and I'm not really too sure about everyone's, but I do know that Zach has a very interesting, kind of a different take from most left-wingers on guns. So, Zach, we could probably just start by you launching into that, and then we can kind of go from there. I plan to pretty much be, the Federal Reserve of takes tonight and mostly step back and moderate, but if the economy of conversation is getting a little slow, then I'll jump in. So, Zach, take it away.
Well, I don't know how uncommon it is here, but yeah, I do believe in strong gun rights. I do believe in the right to bear arms, under no pretext. So I don't know how much you want me to elaborate, but yeah, I disagree with most modern gun laws that are attempted to be implemented in this country.
So do we have any, for example, then to start with the other side here, does anyone want to say for, the case of what gun laws do we think should go into place, if any?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly pro gun reform. I think that we should just have common sense gun reforms, things like universal background checks. We should have things like closing the gun show loophole. I think we should ban assault style rifles as well as high capacity magazines. Maybe having a licensing system as well as more of a training period and a longer time before you can purchase a gun. Just sort of things that I believe are just simple common sense reforms, which I don't think would necessarily infringe on a person's right to bear an arm, but would instead make our country a safer place. As we have seen so far, the 2021, the second that we started opening up, I mean, we started seeing all these mass shootings again, and we're the only country that has this. So there's something that needs to happen, and those are sort of different policies that I believe will lead us in the right direction.
I mean, I do agree with some of what you're saying. I am in favor of I think universal background checks are fair. In fact, the Brainerd County shooting at I forget the school, but the one in Florida, that happened because the local county did not properly submit their background data of domestic abuse calls or some sort of 911 call to the NCIS background check system. So I do agree with that. I also agree with the gun show loophole. I mean, it is sometimes overreacted. It's not as big of a problem as people make it seem, but I do agree it should be closed. Where I sort of disagree with you is we can talk about this a little more, but the assault weapons ban, because I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's not really as cut and dry. And I don't agree with the licensing system. If you're talking about a national registry, because that always leads to confiscation. So that's sort of where I disagree on. So when you mean assault weapons ban, what are you looking for in terms of that?
Yeah, just broadly sort of, I mean, it would just be broadly fully automatic
those
weaponry.
are already illegal.
Well, no.
Well, you can own them, but
I mean, or at least I don't know, just I mean, you understand what I'm saying though, right? When I say assault style weapons, I mean things like an AR-15, right? Guns which you can easily fire at sort of high rates that are fairly accurate, and you could just shoot them at very high rates and can obviously hurt a lot of people in a very short range of time. That's sort of what I mean by an assault style weapon, and one that's not necessarily justified in terms of self-defense, right? If you had hunting, if you had a rifle or a shotgun, those obviously, or a pistol, those can be defined in terms of self-defense or hunting. But if you have something like an AR-15, there's no real justification for that, and they're just the weapons like those are commonly used in mass shootings because they have those high rates of fire. So I mean, I don't necessarily know too much about guns, so I don't know necessarily this is the exact cutoff or this is what an assault style weapon necessarily means. But I just mean having those sort of high rate of fire guns sort of being banned.
All right, I get what you're saying, and I don't mean to be rude here because I know you already admit you don't know a lot about guns, but there's a lot of ignorance in what you're saying about guns and how they function and why they're dangerous and why they aren't. So I'm just going to explain to you sort of the difference. When you say an AR-15 is not you're okay with a hunting rifle, right?
Yeah.
You say that? So an AR-15 is not any more dangerous than a hunting rifle. The problem I have with a lot of gun laws is that they aren't actually based on how dangerous a weapon is, or they're just based on how they look. So the lower of an AR-15, which is the what has a serial number, right? It's not any more dangerous than any of their guns. And I'm sure Kenan and Eli can also back me up here because I know Eli for a fact knows about this. They're not any more dangerous. They don't caliber any more dangerous bullets, right? So
but caliber doesn't necessarily inform how dangerous they are, because what I'm talking about is rate of fire, right? Because obviously,
so
when you have things
they're
like
semi-automatic,
caliber,
they don't actually fire any quicker.
Depends. When I say I don't know much about guns, I mean I don't know necessarily much about individual types of guns. I've shot a lot of different guns in my life. I come from a very conservative household. We own guns. I've shot many different types. Yeah. When I'm talking about sort of those, when you talk about an AR-15, you do admit you can shoot an AR-15 faster in most cases than pretty much every hunting rifle, right?
No, you can't. You mean because of like the stock? What do you mean?
I mean,
by
you
that?
can have different things, like you can have the stock, you can have different attachments, you can do I mean, there are just different ways of shooting an AR-15 than a hunting
If
rifle.
you're saying
Also,
like it's easier,
if I could just interject really quickly, from what I'm reading right now, the recent Colorado shooting was also committed with an AR-15.
yeah, but it's
Over
just because
a-
it's more popular.
But but there was a ban that was in place that was overruled, I believe,
the Colorado. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
by NRA lobbying, and I believe that the suspects purchased the weapons legally. So that's
He did.
a recent example of where a ban on that kind of weapon would have prevented a mass shooting.
Not necessarily. Why would a ban on an AR-15 necessarily? I mean, why would he not use a pistol?
I mean,
And also, he had an assault charge. It was just 3rd degree, so I think that should be changed, just to illuminate more facts on it.
I mean, I can't speak to his charge, but I can speak to the fact that he used that weapon. He chose that weapon for a purpose. I mean, I don't know the details of how he exactly killed the individual people, but I believe that if you would look into them, that you would see that it would probably be beneficial for him to use a longer range kind of weapon.
I mean, he's using a rifle because it's easier. It's easier to shoot with because it's a rifle.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily more dangerous.
Well, no, but I mean, it's easier to shoot with.
No, but what?
Easier to
It's
aim.
easier to shoot accurately and rapidly
With a
an
large,
AR-15 than
yeah,
with a hunting
but it's
rifle.
not
It
an
also-
air
and with a
Apparently.
pistol, absolutely.
They also have mostly bigger
Apparently.
magazines, right, than
I don't know.
regular
Yes, but
hunting
that's not
rifles.
exclusive to the
And
AR-15.
they're more customizable too.
You can still,
You can put a magazine in any gun.
You can still, of course you can, but there are guns that make it easier to kill people. That was what they were designed for.
Yeah, all guns were designed to kill.
Yeah, but
So
not
should
all
we-
of them were designed to kill. Okay, but no. There are modern innovations in weaponry that have made them more useful on the battlefield that normal people do not need to have. The same reason that we don't let people buy like other types of military equipment. You know, something that was designed to be
Look, if
used
you have a fucking
defensively in
pistol
an
grip
assault phase.
if you have a pistol grip on a
purpose.
rifle, you fucking shooting someone with a bullet. It doesn't really matter. It's like
It
this
does
is my
matter,
problem.
though,
Okay,
because
but
we saw
you're
that
just
they killed
you're
people
just drawing false. Like, okay, oh, what if someone someone could shoot someone from fucking building, and you'd be like, okay, it's just a bullet going into a body, even though like the circumstances of each shooting can be aided or abetted by the type of weapon that's being used, and it can be made easier or harder by the type of weapon that's being used.
I agree, but it's not like a bum
shotgun,
stock.
a shooting done with an assault shotgun is going to be more deadly than a shooting gun with.
What is an
with
assault
pistol.
shotgun? That's not a real thing.
Yeah, there are shotguns that were designed for use by the military.
As the AR-15 was in 1957.
What defines
How
an
do you
assault weapon?
define
Do you want me
that?
to look up?
Aren't all
You mean
Actually,
like the
yeah.
ones with 4 barrels?
I'm sorry. What?
I mean, do you mean like the ones with like 4 barrels?
I can't speak to that specifically, but like, let me find an example.
Okay.
Aren't
Anyways,
all weapons assault weapons though, technically.
this is my point.
Well, I
It's
mean, yes, but that's kind of a useless definition.
How do you define assault weapon?
Well,
I
there
mean, we
are
just
there
have to
are
reach that
definitions
road
of
when we
assault.
get there.
There was
Give me
There are
federal.
definitions
There was
like
Give me
advanced.
a definition of an assault weapon right now.
okay. You can look
You can
that
look
up.
it up if you
No.
want. You can
Well,
look
from
it
what I
up.
understand-
The
that
definition of assault weapon in
Just to
federal
be
law
clear,
is based
Eli,
off how the gun looks.
Eli, to
Yeah.
be clear.
Okay,
to be
that's
clear,
just not
okay.
even
Yeah, just to be clear, if
necessarily
you
true.
do look up, if you do,
Yeah, I literally
do
just looked
look
up what it means.
Yeah,
That's not what it
it's pretty much just like I'm pretty sure it's like any gun with like a detachable
pistol
like
grip,
magazine
yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not even
Can I
Like
just,
the
can I just
Google
read it? Can I just
definition.
read it off Wikipedia right now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kenan,
do
read
that.
it out.
Yeah, Kenan.
Drawing from federal and state law definitions, the term assault weapon refers primarily to semi-automatic rifles, pistols, and shotguns that are able to accept detachable magazines and possess one or more other features. Some jurisdictions define revolving cylinder shotguns as assault weapons.
So it's based off
Okay.
of the gun attachments,
Yeah.
essentially.
And that's
It's not
the
even
same
based
thing.
off the gun.
So
Yeah,
do
but
you
the thing
not
about
agree
gun
with
attachments,
detachable?
right? When you have different gun attachments, you can make the gun more deadly and be more effectively used in a shooting, which
I
I
don't understand
disagree
what you
with.
mean. What? How do like? Can I'm not like I
So
actually
like
don't
when you have
understand.
different for example, like obviously when it comes to the magazines with detachable magazines, it's a lot easier for you to get your hands on a bigger magazine, right? Like when you're talking
Okay,
about like a
yeah.
hunting rifle, yeah, sure, you can make that have a bigger magazine. Yeah, you can do that. But it's going to be fucking difficult.
Why?
And a lot of people are fucking lazy. So it's gonna be far more likely that someone's just gonna be able to go down to the store and buy an AR-15 and use that to a far deadlier effect than them working on a hunting
But
rifle.
it's not
It's
any
easier
I
for
harder.
mean,
it's
look at
easier
the
for
Las Vegas
untrained
shooting.
people. It's easier for untrained people to do more harm with assault style weapons. That's my problem with it. Is the utilitarian consequences of having these assault style weapons. I don't care about like, oh yeah, how do the definitions work when it comes to a weapon or not? I just see that, hey, we have a problem with mass shootings. Most of them are committed with assault style weapons. There is a reason because of that, because it's easier for untrained people to use it. So we should have something regulating those. That's my belief. It's
But the
just that sort of
hunting
utilitarian
rifles,
belief.
I don't
Okay,
necessarily agree with the concept that at the having a pistol grip is so dangerous that people won't just start using quote hunting rifles for mass shootings.
okay,
I
okay.
mean,
Do you
that's
do
what
you
happened in
think
every
the
other country.
Las
There's so many
Vegas
different
shooting?
countries.
No. They
Do you
banned
think that
like
could have been
semi-automatic
committed?
rifles, and they had much more strict gun laws, much more strict gun laws.
In the
Like,
Las Vegas shooting, the one when he used
yeah,
a
a bump
rapid
stock.
fire weapon, yeah, a bump stock.
Yeah, that's
Because
not
he
the
could
gun though. That's
no, but he could
something
obtain
different.
he yes, I know, but he could obtain a bump stock. But my point is that do you think that that shooting's deadliness could have been the same with a hunting rifle or a pistol? Absolutely fucking not. Obviously
Yes,
not.
but
No,
not without
dude,
with
no
no.
way,
Hold
bro.
on. Let me
It's
finish.
based on the
Let me finish.
attachment.
First of all, the answer is yes if the bump stock is not involved. So, yeah, you are right, but if we're talking about
What?
bump stocks, that's a different. That's not like an attack.
No, but it's related. It's a legal loophole that he took advantage of,
That's being
purchased a weapon,
regulated, though.
modified. It's being regulated, but my point is ultimately that that weapon was more deadly than a pistol or a hunting rifle, and there
Yeah.
are assault-style weapons that of similar effectiveness without bump stocks that are legal.
So is the
you're
solution
trying
there?
to-
Is
you're
the
trying to
is
say-
the solution
you're
there
trying
just to ban bump stocks though? Or is that
Aren't
No,
bump
but
stocks already
the
banned?
point is to demonstrate that a weapon of assault caliber, like that weapon became with the bump stock,
Yeah.
made a deadly shooting worse than
Okay,
a
then,
hunting
but
rifle or a
why
pistol that
in
would
this
be legal.
scenario? Why isn't the problem? Why wouldn't the solution just be ban the bump stock then? Why
No,
is it
but
ban the weapon
dude,
that
you're
takes?
He's
you're
using
missing
it
the
to
point.
illustrate a
You're
point.
missing
He's
the
using
point.
to illustrate the broader.
Okay. The point is that with a bump stock, that gun became an assault style weapon equivalent to what is legally available in the United States, right? You can accept that?
Yeah. Okay.
And that deadly shooting became demonstrably worse because of the abilities of that gun that cannot be replicated with a hunting rifle or a pistol that would be legal in an ideal gun reform scenario. So
Yeah.
that deadly
Right, can I-
shooting
can
would
I-
have
I don't actually know I don't know about how effective the bump stock was or how important it was, but yeah, I
It
can
was
agree with that
incredibly
generally.
So yeah,
important.
I'm reading the bump stock allowed the shooter to fire shots in rapid succession, which was at a rate of fire similar to automatic weapons.
Yeah. Well, that's what it basically just it turns it into select fire basically. It has to do with like how the firing pin.
So yeah, ban bump stocks obviously, but the
Aren't bump
point is
stocks
that
banned?
yeah, but the point is that the gun that's equivalent to it should be banned also, like the assault style automatic
we're saying
weapons.
that bump stocks, yes, it's like essentially different steps, right? So you have at the lowest step of dangerous things, you have like pistols, shotgun, like
Well,
pump shotguns,
actually,
whatever. You have
pistols are
hunting
really
rifles,
way
and then
more dangerous.
okay,
and
just
they
let
make
me
it
illustrate
most
my
dangerous.
point.
How are
right?
they more
Okay.
dangerous?
So you have
than-
different levels, right, of dangerousness, and then you have like assault rifles, and then you have like bump stocks, and you have different levels, right? And that's what we're sort of saying that, hey, bump stocks suck, but so do assault style rifles, and so we should regulate both. That's essentially our point.
Okay. Wait. What do you mean? How are pistols more dangerous? They're more dangerous because they cause more deaths. It's not like it's sort of like depends how you define danger. Like, is a nuke more dangerous than like a car like yes, but the cars cause more deaths. So like inherently, which one's more dangerous? Probably a rifle, but the handguns cause like a lot more deaths. Is my point.
Yeah, that's true, but also the handgun is the most common weapon, and it's also probably one of the safest. But its prevalence and the ease of which it can be accessed, Well, okay, it's safer in terms of mass shootings that we're trying to prevent here, because that's mostly what a lot of the gun reform legislation is targeted at reducing.
Okay, but I get what you're saying.
In addition to background checks and things that would make it harder for criminals to obtain any weapon. But the point is that we have people in the country that can access weapons that are easier to fire, have longer ranges, higher caliber, and are better at killing people that they don't necessarily need to have.
Yeah.
Okay, but
the
overall point is it's deadlier weapons that people don't need to have over, common sense guns that people could have, hunting rifles, pistols, etc.
Because the idea is if people can shoot, and yet if the right is self-defense, like you could just do the job with a much, less non-military gun,
But the weapons that are being used increase the effectiveness and deaths that come from these kinds of mass events. So, like, the natural thing would be to reduce access to the things that make it easier to kill more people, like every other country that doesn't have this issue.
Do you think it's fair to, like, take away the rights of the people, though, as opposed to just fixing the issues that cause the mass shootings in the first place?
I mean, we don't really allow people to have the free right to scream fire when there isn't a fire in, like, a theater or on a crowded airplane.
100% different. That's different.
There are common sense restrictions on.
I know, but this is
freedom of speech.
This is taking.
These are common sense restrictions on the people's right to bear arms.
What you're taking is horrible tragedies and then punishing the entire country for it.
In what way?
By restricting free.
How is everyone in America going to be weeping because they can't have an automatic weapon? Like, people in America aren't
regulations to people that didn't do anything
People in
wrong.
America aren't like sobbing over the loss of the right to lie and shout fire in a crowded airplane when there isn't.
That's not what I'm talking about. The gun reform, not the.
They're equivalent.
Shouting
fire
fire in an airplane doesn't have any tangible benefit to the person shouting fire besides just like.
What do you?
The gun
Dude, using an automatic weapon doesn't have any tangible benefit to the person aside from
because that's the thing.
What tangible benefits?
In what way? In what way does committing a mass shooting have tangible benefits?
This is actually where I disagree with.
Are you saying people that own guns commit mass shootings just by default? That's what you're arguing.
I think what he's trying to okay. Everybody, just so before we know, like what I think we seem to like James is saying here, like and Kate as well. It's like we have a difference between being able to like. If your access is the right, what is your right? Is your right to like a military grade assault weapon, or is your right to
it's not military grade, but
of some kind, like like a very high like level, very like damaging, very lethal weapon that you don't necessarily need when you can have and still fulfill your right to bear arms with a much lower power gun that would make it harder to do things like commit a mass shooting. But where do we fall on that?
These laws would not make it. They wouldn't. I mean, before we had.
Hold on, let's go to Kenan though, because Kenan has
a lot. So I agree with everything that Kate and James have been saying. I think assault weapons are bad, etc. But I think that we need them. This is going to sound really libertarian to protect us from a tyrannical government.
Yes. Well, we only got into one part of the argument, so yeah.
Yeah. But I think guns could potentially be a useful, what's the word I'm looking for? Deterrent. When it comes to government. I don't know.
May I respond?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, James.
Revolutions are not usually won ever by civilians in mass uprisings against the government.
I agree.
They're won by
maybe they don't have the guns to do it.
No, but even in history, when they did have essentially unlimited right to have whatever gun they wanted, it wasn't civilians with weapons that overthrew governments that were tyrannical. It was armies that were disciplined and
in an event of some like civil conflict, I doubt it would be the entire military against
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
It would probably be like a faction of the military versus a faction of the military.
Civilians are not just gonna okay, professional fucking government soldiers are fighting me. I'm gonna stand up and defend myself. Like most of them are gonna flee and fire back if they're fired upon. Like
exactly. Okay, but look what's happening in Myanmar right now. Like, you think they wouldn't benefit from having a Second Amendment?
They do have guns in Myanmar.
Yeah, I don't think that the civilians...
And the problem is also, first of all, they do have guns in Myanmar. Second of all, when it comes to their issues, it's very... Yes, it is true. Because oftentimes, particularly, obviously, within Myanmar, it depends on the state. So, right, you have two major breakaway regions in Myanmar. You have the state of Rakhine, which is obviously was attacked under the Rohingya, and they obviously started taking up arms in a... sort of terrorist action against the government after they were committing a genocide against them. And then you also have a state in the east, which I believe is, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it. Oh my God. All right, whatever. I can't remember the name of it. There's a state in the east, which also is like up in the mountains. They also have guns. There's guns pretty much everywhere in Myanmar, but it depends because obviously those within cities have less of a purpose to have guns, and they're obviously cracked down hard. The major protests take place in cities, and there's a lack of guns mostly in the cities. And they end up getting attacked on. But even if they did have guns, let's pretend they did, you have essentially a disciplined military with tanks, planes, helicopters, whatever. They're always going to win.
That's not what we're talking about, though.
A protest group. But what I'm saying is that it's very, very unlikely that it will be decided by people with guns. And for the most part, this doomsday scenario that you're creating is likely never going to come to pass. What is going to happen is that you're either going to see a slow slide into tyranny in which most of the American people, prominently most of the American people who own guns, will be on the side of, right? Or you have to push with reform towards in like an electoral way. You're not going to see this violent revolution. You're not going to see necessarily a civil war come to blows in a sort of modern era. I don't believe that fundamentally. And if it is, it's not going to be decided by civilians with guns.
And
I just really don't believe that there's much of a
the
purpose.
reason I would say agree with you.
I would say like in times where it was most protest movements have been successful, it hasn't been because they had the amount of guns. And
it's not a protest movement. No, you're misunderstanding.
Yeah, what are you
talking
about?
It's not about protest. Okay, what I was saying is I agree with Kate here, but it's not. I don't think in principle, like being armed as a civilian population is necessarily ineffective. But I do agree with you with the fact that because most of this country that is armed is highly conservative, we probably wouldn't be on their side. But I wouldn't necessarily say in principle having an armed populace is effective.
If they have restrictions on the guns, then I think we should have restrictions on the guns.
That's because
I don't think we're ever actually going to take. We have an incredible amount of guns in this country. And the vast majority of them are owned by conservative people. So.
Oh, I support the SRA, man. I do.
I'm literally an SRA member.
I do. I support the SRA.
I am. Yeah, I literally am. I'm a dues-paying member.
And just moments ago, you guys were going back and forth. What agreement?
No, but I because I do fundamentally support the people's right to bear arms. I just think that
the police have guns. We should be able to have guns too.
Well, the police are always going to fucking win. The police are like, the police are disciplined, professionally trained. The Cuban Revolution.
Yeah, you think the police are trained?
Yeah,
dude,
they're not really
better trained firearms. When they shot at the freaking.
Well, it's not necessarily that they're trained. They have better firepower, though. That's the thing.
And also, yes.
Then whatever.
And they have a lot more like carte blanche ability. Like I think the biggest time of if you're resisting,
resources.
It has to be like the mass amount of people behind you. You know, like whatever that number is. I think there's actually like a term number out there that's like if you have this amount of people on your side, you will win whatever movement. But like that kind of mass. Not centered around violence and guns, but centered around mass action together from the entire populace. That's the most effective. And guns normally are not the deciding factor.
Hurts. I think gun control is classist, in my opinion.
In what?
That sounds big.
In what regard?
I mean, you see it happen in New York City. You know who can get guns in New York City? It's not poor people; it's rich people.
The rich white people that get the guns.
Howard Stern has a gun, but some random dude in like the projects cannot get a gun to protect his family. That is.
That's not true. There's definitely you can definitely get a gun.
Not a handgun. It's
In New York City, it is incredibly hard to obtain.
you cannot get a concealed carry permit, and it's very hard to just get a regular handgun.
Are you
need
saying
to
there's
get,
a
like,
financial barrier there?
It's more than just a financial barrier. They can just deny you for no fucking reason, literally.
It's also it's cut around race lines as well.
How do the rich people get around it?
Paying people, knowing people. You know, all the gun laws in this country
That's
are
what
literally
needs
to
to be
disarm black
addressed.
people, right? That's literally how they started.
No, but we need to address the loopholes that make it racist, not the policy.
But gun laws, if you're using that sort of
purpose.
idea of gun laws being used in a racial sense, I don't think you should use that argument because
It's
gun
not
laws
just
were also
racist.
created in a racial sense. Back when we had slavery, if you notice, baked within the Second Amendment, there's also the idea of forming a well-regulated militia. That was militias were
militias
primarily to
inherently
suppress
racist?
slave
Wait, Eli,
rebellions.
Eli.
So if you're talking about race,
Wait.
us having loose gun laws is particularly connected to the legacy of slavery in this country.
Militias
So
are
don't
not
just use that
inherently
racism.
racist.
I don't agree with that.
No,
That-
the historical militias they're referring to in the Constitution primarily were
You don't-
slave patrols.
Whenever
State.
someone says this is what the framers thought, that's just instantly wrong because they all disagreed with each other. So I don't buy that.
Yeah, and also the thing
nobody
is,
can really know what they
be
thought.
a
I don't
very
really give a
slippery
shit.
slope to directly.
I don't really give a
interpret
shit what the framers
Constitution
thought.
to be.
I care about having a government that addresses the needs of a contemporary society effectively.
Okay, but
And whatever means affect that, I'm fine with.
this is my point. Okay, I don't necessarily. Okay, in a utopia, right? I'd be fine with having these gun laws, right? But I guarantee you, if we pass this ban, right, this is gonna happen. We have way too many guns in this country. None of the social changes that are actually necessary are gonna happen. People are still gonna get killed by guns. They're like all the guns are not gonna disappear. So you're just gonna prevent poor people from getting guns and protecting themselves. So I think there are I'm not saying no more gun laws, or because I think there really are. I think there are. No, it's not cynical. It's a fact.
It's just.
I mean, I don't know if that's
Okay,
a fact.
you're
because
saying
when
like
you look
okay,
at every other
America's
place that
cursed
has
to
gun
I would
laws,
say it's
anarchic
pragmatic.
social
They have
degradation. So let's just have more guns so people can.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm being realistic here that the freaking Democorps are not going to fucking fix our society. So just getting rid of the right.
So
of the
veer in the
people
other
is not
direction. That's your course.
no, not. Don't take away rights.
I
So
mean,
you're
all
saying
you're
veer in
doing
the
is
other
just
direction?
making it effectively. All you're doing is just making it easier for people to kill more people more effectively.
Well, I'm
That's
also
correct.
making it
That's
easier for
correct.
people
what
to
you're
defend
saying.
themselves.
That's correct.
Yeah, but the average scenario of someone having to defend themselves, a pistol is sufficient. And if you're talking about them, if you're talking about them fighting the government, they're going to lose. So
that's not
it's
up to you
pointless
to
use
decide.
that.
That's not up to you to decide.
Well, I don't.
Yeah,
you
it is
can't-
because it effectively.
What?
No,
What
you
do you
cannot
mean?
decide
We're
what's
talking about politics.
justifiable.
Yes, it is up for us to decide.
Yeah, it is.
No,
okay.
you cannot provide justification for another person on what they can and can't own. And in this
Yeah,
sense,
Oh wait,
man,
wait!
I don't
I can
in this
like,
sense-
wait! What about owning another
can't own a
person? That's
nude.
like
no, that's
morally
completely
unjust.
different. That's completely different.
How is it? Wait,
How
you're
is
saying
that-
I cannot pass judgment on what people own? And
If you're
what
the
they do?
government,
You can't own a person, but you
We're
can't.
talking about
you're
from the
own-
perspective of government
I
policy
demand
here.
to own my McNukes immediately. Gotcha.
We're talking about from the perspective
Eli, I
of
don't really
government
agree with that
policy.
take. I
not-
do think you should be able to regulate what people own. What?
Yeah, no
not,
taxes,
not in
guys.
like
Come on.
no, but you're saying that you don't think this is justifiable, and it should just be banned immediately, based
I'm just
on
saying, like
basically how the gun looks.
no, like I'm just being like pragmatic about like how we want to have guns in America.
I just don't think
Most
it'd be
people don't
effective.
need more than a pistol to defend themselves.
Well, if
And
we're,
that's
if
not up to
we're
you
gonna
to
pick,
decide.
if we're gonna pick one gun to use, I would say a shotgun would be more effective. But I get where your point is.
I mean,
But
I just
shotguns
don't
also.
get-
I mean, weren't you the person who was earlier saying like a bullet is a bullet? It's gonna kill somebody.
No, I was saying that a gun is a gun. If it shoots a similar bullet and acts very similarly, having a pistol grip is not going to necessarily affect the deadliness of it.
Okay, well, I feel like a shotgun is way easier to be fatal. First of all, self-defense
Yeah.
shootings don't always have to be fatal. Like not
Whoa,
necessarily.
what? Okay, what would you like to shoot them?
I'm
in
not
the
saying
kneecap?
people are unjust for killing someone they shoot, but like if you can and you don't have to, you don't necessarily have to kill them. But if you shoot them with
Also,
a shotgun,
disagree
they're
with
I just
that.
want
dying.
to say
Or if you
quickly.
steal property from my house, I have the right to kill you.
No,
If
you
break in.
you do, but more people are gonna die 100% of the time if you have shotguns.
Yeah.
but if they get shot, they're incapacitated.
Not
So
necessarily.
they don't. So them dying is like not something we need to ensure, right? Like in a utilitarian sense, we want.
I don't necessarily agree with utilitarian arguments most of the time. So
That's. I mean,
if
that's
you're trying to
Really?
convince me-
That's a different discussion, but we've unearthed a plank here, I guess.
I just want to say though, for my beliefs when it comes to like utilitarianism, I just want to see how you guys address this argument because objectively, to me at least, it seems like the gun laws that I'm proposing at
Okay.
least have a far more like are they're good at reducing gun deaths, right? So take New York for example. There's about 4.4 deaths, I believe, per 100,000 residents when it comes to gun deaths, right? When
I
you
don't
have
know that
Ohio,
stat, but
which
yeah.
has yeah, you can look up the stats. I mean, I don't remember
I'm
the
trusting
exact
you. I don't
stats.
think you're bad for
But
it.
Ohio, right, which has pretty much similar poverty rates, which is one of the big definers of sort of being more exposed to gun violence, has about 12.1 deaths per 100,000, right? So I just want to see. So do you think that those deaths are worth it to have the right to own a gun, or what do you believe? Because the big difference between those two states is New York has stricter gun control than Ohio. So I just want to know what's your beliefs when it comes to that.
My question is, where is the poverty? Like, I feel like there's it's more nuanced than that. You could be right, but like the first question that comes to mind is like, where's the poverty? How, like, is it rural? Is it urban? Because I feel like that definitely affects it.
I mean, both. I mean, both states have rural and urban poverty. Like if you go to Cleveland
I don't
or
actually know. I don't have a good. I would have to think about that. I have to say, you
Well,
guys,
Cleveland
you guys
is
argue
about-
against this pretty well. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely made me thought about this a lot more.
That is a good.
That's
kinda
based. That's based.
Good discussions.
I like.
I've
I
been
like
sorta-
productive
I've been sorta
discussions are
leaning towards
good.
it, but I am like very anti-government for the most part, except for like the very necessary stuff. So it does make me a little concerned that the civilians don't have the right. Like, I hate to make slippery slope arguments, but it does concern me a little bit. Even though I can see the pragmatic arguments, if you get where I'm coming from.
I do. I mean, yeah. I feel
I
like
agree.
I understand that fear as well because I don't like a tyrannical government at all.
Yeah, of course.
So like I like the SRA. Like I like people. I probably will maybe own a handgun in my future. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe it depends where I end up. But like I feel like it's fine to embrace the right to self-defense with, pragmatic restrictions on how we go about doing that as
I see
well.
where you're coming from.
All right, yeah, that sounds like some good agreement there. So glad to have that discussion. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is all about identity politics and its kind of influence in culture and what we talk about. Do you worry about identity politics? Is it going too far? And I think probably the best start to do that. I think I can see the question coming already. Is like, what is identity politics? And I know I'll start with Zach. To kick the thing going off. What's your thought about that? Yeah, I'm sorry. If anyone else wants to go into it.
I thought we were talking about what
like woke culture, all that stuff.
All right. Wait, well, they are different. So which one do you want to talk about?
Well, how are they different?
Okay, well, when you say like wokeness, it makes me think of like cancel culture and stuff like that. When you say identity politics, it makes me think of like Tammy Duckworth not nominating people because like they're not Asian. So, I think those are different discussions.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, do you think like with cancel? All right, let's just start with cancel culture then. Let's go with let's say Kenan. Do you think cancel culture is going too far?
No, I think it's way overblown by right wing. I think they use this issue just to like bash our heads in. I think probably some cancellations are too far, but I don't think this is a big issue at all. I
kind of agree with Ken. Like where it gets like a bit much for me is like when it gets to, like the college level sometimes like people try to like quote cancel like college professors for like their curriculum. I mean, I think that's a bit ridiculous. And I especially like I don't remember the girl's name, but Walshy, we did a podcast on
yes,
the
like,
girl. I mean,
yeah, it was
that's
like a
just,
situation at
classic
like
bullshit.
Smith
She was
College.
Smith College. She was in like a dorm that was closed, lying down, eating, and it was policy to call like a security person because they don't want their janitorial staff just like going up to random people. And then like they had a security person come over, and the girl was like, "Oh, I've been racially profiled," and like tried to get all these people fired or whatever, and like sent the woke crowd on them. I mean, I think that's just ridiculous. And
Yeah.
but I do think like it's a lot of times it's overblown bullshit. But
Yeah,
I mean, if most of it happens on Twitter, so it's not like real life. So
Yeah.
like Gina Carano, whatever I forget it, the freaking Star Wars girl, like that was. Who cares? Like, you got fired for being a fucking idiot. Like,
yeah, a lot of that stuff, like, yeah, the Gina
like-
Carano situation, yeah, that stuff I think is definitely, like, really kind of dumb and, like, a little bit overblown. But I do think there is, you know, a lot of this stuff is, like, I kind of worry about it because could get some, you know, class reductionist accusations here. But I do say, like, the prevailing theme on a lot of, like, the Democratic, you know, side, you know, and I include a lot of like the Democratic Party culture on this, is kind of an evaluation of race through all kind of lenses, and I think this kind of comes with the Tammy Duckworth situation. That's one example of it, and just kind of a policy that a lot of times is just like it's natural because you know any kind of class positioning and kind of like that doesn't really come into the equation at all, and that kind of is what concerns me from at least I guess we call it like a left wing perspective about. Some of the way this, you know, the cancel, like I hate to use the word cancel culture because it just sounds so stupid, but like that cancel culture discourse, I guess you'd call it.
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's when you look at sort of these issues, I think that a lot of times they sort of act as if sort of class issues, at least on the left, I see that it's sometimes seen as like class issues and identity politics issues, sometimes like are seen sort of being mutually exclusive. And yeah, there are a lot of Democrats who are sort of more liberal thinking when it comes to identity politics issues, but then when it comes to economics issues, yeah, they're more centrist. So there can sort of be this disconnect there, but I still think it's very important to sort of organize along identity lines. Like particularly when you're in a minority group, like obviously I'm trans. Trans people make up 1.6% of the US's population. Alone, we don't have really any power. But by organizing together and sort of pushing for our own issues that sort of affect us in our day-to-day lives, that makes us have access to the levers of politics. So I think that identity politics is necessary, especially for minority groups. And I think that there doesn't need to be that mutual exclusivity. And then when it comes to cancel culture, again, like I'm just gonna have to agree, like, yeah, it's overblown. I think it's like, okay, like if you say something stupid, like obviously there's gonna be consequences to that. But like, yeah, sometimes there's like, it goes a bit too far, but like, I think for a lot of it, it's just not like the end of the world. But yeah, those are just my opinions on it.
What you're saying about like as a minority group, like I don't want to speak for Eli here, but I know we're both Jewish, right? So obviously, Jews are very politically influential, you know, AIPAC, stuff like that. So there's definitely political power in terms of, I mean, identity politics, whatever. I mean, what did Obama say? Like, we can't pass law unless like AIPAC says it's cool.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's yeah, that's definitely a very, very good point. And like, I think what is kind of the left's like kind of biggest responsibility there is fusing a path where, and you know, people may say, oh, you're like a Bernie homer or whatever, but I think like the best attempt at doing this was, you know, the Bernie Sanders campaign talking about, you know, bringing together the multiracial working class, and of course that comes with, you know, the LGBTQ community, bringing everybody together, regardless of identity, around, you know, this whole idea that which comes the end benefits everyone, but you know, the kind of new version of it, which has been a big flaw in, you know, some of the, like, especially the movements, left-wing movements here in this country, is just not taking in, and like at least factoring in a big part of it, like people's individual identities. Kate, what do you think about that? Like, what vision do you see kind of the class aspect of it and the identity aspect of it coexisting in future successful, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just sort of have to reach out to these communities and make those arguments, because I think what you see is, I think a lot of people from minority communities recognize sort of the importance of class. Like, if you're in an African American community, you understand that particularly there are essentially still redlining in a lot of these places, which lead to class issues and lead to essentially African Americans oftentimes being exposed to things like whatever it may be, gentrification, lack of education, things like that, where it's really, there are these clear class issues there. Or like when it comes to trans people, like healthcare is very important to trans people. Like, it is incredibly difficult and expensive for a lot of people to get, so that a lot of trans people are obviously very heavily pro Medicare for all because they need access to these different sorts of medicine. So I think that when it comes to these class issues, I think it's more just having candidates who are willing to get out there and put the two together. Because I think what you have a lot of these minority groups is that, hey, they want these class issues to be addressed. There's just, they instead go for what's available to them. So obviously they'd rather have the person who at least will put forward a thing or two, like maybe saying like, hey, we don't want these like hate crimes to occur or whatever, or like we'll try and do something. Someone like a Tammy Duckworth who will try and do something for the Asian community, but maybe not address the economic issues prevalent within it. And so you essentially have to put forward these candidates who will do both. And I think that's really the big important thing, is just putting those candidates out there.
Yeah, and I really think that can work to your benefit. For example, like you have Bernie and like reaching out to the Latino community, and that not only like literally all he did was, and it wasn't that big of a secret, just like talk to, people in the communities all across Nevada and California and all that places, and a lot of people in the Latino community like respected him for it, and it paid back politically, and it's probably going to be a great like future starting point for building off of that in maybe future campaigns that make them down the road.
Not with Cubans.
Yeah, the Cubans do not like him.
They do
That's
not
true.
like Bernie.
Definitely more in the West.
You just say the word
West
socialist,
Coast.
and it's dead on arrival for them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But that is definitely a kind of interesting window into what could be for the future. But yeah, and also there's a interesting the thing also about the college aspect of it, which I find to be kind of interesting as well. Once we are all kind of roughly around the precipice of going into, and me and Kenan have to be going to the same college, and there's already been like some kind of like in the pre like the meeting everyone group chats that kind of form in like various social media apps. There's always been some like political based fights, so it's definitely
there was there was like there was a fight over whether you should
I want to hear that.
have to put your pronouns in your name title in the group me, and there was a couple of conservatives that were arguing against it, and then pretty much like majority of everyone was arguing for it. And,
yeah, it was
I read the transcripts.
No,
really, yeah,
Zach
it was
pretty, he read a little bit
crazy.
of it. Yeah, like it's it definitely seems like it could be a very kind of tense political environment, and that I think really the vision that Kate outlined there would be the key. It was kind of like bringing these two together, which, as we talked about, can definitely be done. So now I think it'd be a good time to move on to our last issue of discussion, and then to talk a little bit more about the future, and that is with a little bit. Let's go to. I want to go to James Weld on this. What if you for kind of the social democrat, like left of the Democratic Party politics to gain steam and gain momentum in the future? What do you want to happen?
I really think we need to combat misinformation that gets promulgated amongst the working class in this country, and that has turned a lot of them into embracing Republicans, and specifically the Republican Party, because the Republican Party is not so much a specific ideology as it is like kind of like a cult of
They're just
certain tenets. Yeah, and it's kind of wrapped around the like weird mishmash of like national populist policies of Donald Trump, basically.
Populist?
Yeah.
Drain the swamp, boys.
So, yeah, I think the main thing would be organizing amongst the economically disadvantaged majority of the country. Not economically disadvantaged specifically, but just the majority of the country, which is operating on working class, lower middle class income. And using online spaces to do that, which the left has been doing recently, is a great way to combat the dominance of a lot of right-wing media. But we need to penetrate traditional formats more as well, like television and talk radio especially.
Yeah, I can agree with you on talk radio, but how have we not penetrated the main? Well, I wouldn't say they're very left-wing, but they're definitely left-leaning.
You're talking about the
but there are a
mainstream
lot
media.
of
There
are a lot of families that they watch their Sinclair-owned local news, Sinclair Broadcasting is a conservative-leaning organization, and they influence the political bent of what's presented to the audience. They watch Tucker in the evening. They listen to the former Rush Limbaugh on the radio in the truck, and they get twisted into a certain ideology.
And even if you're turning on something like MSNBC or CNN, you're probably not getting too much of a positive vision of like left wing, like Bernie's at least economic policies either.
Yeah. Or they listen to like
that's
Dave
true,
Ramsey.
but I feel like I would rather them tune into CNN because it puts them on a bent of rationality, and the information that they're getting is at least accurate.
Yeah,
Dave Ramsey is way worse.
Too.
Because he doesn't portray himself as political at all, and he's just he's 100% bootstraps.
Yeah, that guy. He's on the radio. That is one very weird.
Did you hear what he said about the stimulus package? He was like, I forget what he said. It was something really dumb though. It was like, oh, this is gonna make people poor. They're gonna be so reliant on the government.
Yeah, that's
you should have saved money for this, you idiot.
Yeah, it was like save for the pandemic. Like, what's wrong with you? You're that kind of ideology.
He's worth like $250 million.
I really feel like I'm like praying that kind of ideology, that like cancer that Reaganism kind of built with, is finally drying out. I hope, but I'm not speaking too soon. But about that kind of organizing strategy, I think a great kind of microcosm of this was it's kind of a media drama in large part, but the idea around force the vote, the various controversies to get AOC to force and withhold votes for the stimulus package of $15 of Medicare for all, and vote for Pelosi. Stimulus package they wanted to withhold for the $15 minimum wage, and then a vote for Nancy Pelosi. They wanted the squad to withhold to ensure a floor vote for Medicare for all. And that kind of represents this difference between this inside-outside strategy. Some people say, we have to do both. Some people say electoralism is, the worst way to go about it, because even if you get people like AOC in there, they're not really going to be that effective in getting results for you quick.
I think Noam Chomsky's scared if voting could change anything, it would be illegal. I mean, I don't agree with that, but I thought that's just an interesting quote.
Kenneth, what do you think about this?
I think that we need definitely more internationalism in our approach. There's an organization that was recently formed. It's called the Progressive International. And what's cool is that they are trying to organize a kind of general strike against Amazon, where they get millions of people to stop buying Amazon products for a couple of days to dent their revenues and maybe extract concessions, because there's only so much we can do politically in government. So I think we need to engage a lot more with international organizations.
And you bring up a very interesting thing with both the international organizations and with Amazon, because as probably many of you know, if not all of you, that the big union
29.
vote is coming tomorrow. It's going to be finishing tomorrow. And I don't know when the results. I think they're going to come out
the next day.
Yeah, ballots are going to be counted the next day, and that kind of represents the strategy. What is the best way forward? Do you go some route like an AOC, or do you go some kind of route organizing through Amazon, or is it some kind of a method of
you can do both, right? Yeah, both. And the approach that I was talking about it wouldn't be necessarily a strike like Amazon workers strike. It would be the consumers
like a
en
boycott.
masse like a boycott, like a targeted boycott with enough people to make some sort of dent in Amazon's
The problem
profits.
is I've seen all the
It's always a problem.
stupid things conservatives do, right? Because, like, obviously, again, I come from a very conservative family. Like, what you'll notice is whenever, like, the left does, like, a boycott of something, like My Pillow or, like, whatever it may be, right? Where the left is like,
They'll just
okay,
buy
this
it up.
person sucks, let's not buy this, right? They'll initially dent the sales, but then what happens is the essentially conservatives who, for a large amount of their actions, sort of base them on spite and opposition to the left as opposed to their own policies, will then go and purchase those. So I don't know whether the left necessarily has enough political clout to ever be able to do a consumer boycott. Like,
what do you mean? Do you have an example of that?
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
with
I just
like
think
Goya,
that
with like the beans, like they were trying to boycott the beans.
Goya?
Yeah, people
so
just
like
bought
what
up
I
the
mean,
beans.
what I mean is just that the left doesn't have
agree.
enough political clout and strength among enough people in the country where a boycott will ever be necessarily effective by the consumers. I think that what you need is essentially stronger union.
Certainly not right now. I agree with you. Certainly not right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the future, if they had that power, that'd be great, and I'd be all for you. But I just think that right now, probably our best focus would be things like direct action, union organization, political action. I think it's underestimated a lot in the left because obviously government sucks a lot of the time. But I do think political organization is probably our best sort of path forwards. And
yeah,
really
but like I don't think
AOCs
I don't think we can get much in terms of political action. Like unions have been dead in this country for a long time.
You got to rebuild them, though. That's the
yeah.
thing.
I feel like
I agree, but I don't know why we can't do both. Yeah,
doing
you can do both.
a boycott before we have the ability to make it effective.
No.
Makes
I'm not talking
people
about now.
not-
I'm talking about building an organization large enough to be able to do that at some point.
That I agree with that as well. That needs to that's the development that we need, a social.
Yeah, on an international scale, because Amazon's an international
I agree.
corporation.
And at least what I hope is, you brought
But
up
it
a good
comes
points
through
with
government
the-
action as well.
the kind of
It comes
boycotts.
strongly
No.
through government
No.
action.
No, it doesn't.
The kind of boycotts that Eli and like Kate brought up being very ineffective with like the My Pillow and the Goya. Like, I really do think like the case is quite different at this time, like where you have a very clear example of a big company with a lot of control over pretty much every aspect of life in ways that you don't even realize. You got from Whole Foods to the internet. Like it's really quite.
You don't actually believe a boycott would work, do you? No one would work for us.
Yeah, no one believes you. Yeah, that incredible tweet that you don't really
Amazon News,
believe.
baby.
Yeah. Amazon News must
I'm so excited
you must
for
follow
Amazon News
account.
to replace all of my information.
Yeah, that's going to be the main source of information in 20 years.
Sponsored, though.
But yeah, that's the
just my
thing.
friend Amazon.
Yeah, that it is very much. I like the kind of more. I do think though the case would be stronger, and like that getting that message out there and through what vehicle is I think what we got to do, what the left needs to focus on, because that message it is compelling.
Yeah. I think in terms of just in political sense, I think like the defund the police movement, no matter how much I agree with it, is like one of the biggest threats to the Democratic Party if they keep toting it. Because if you just look at this country, like the people whose votes matter, like a Pennsylvanian suburban mom is gonna see defund the police and just like vote Republican.
But the Democrats don't embrace that though. That's
Have
the
you,
terrible
I
thing.
think the optics
I'm
are
curious.
worse
Have you ever
than what they
listened
actually
to
mean.
have you ever listened to Jesse Jackson's speech, David and Goliath speech?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so what essentially he argues, and I think I agree with this, the reason a suburban mom has so much power in this country is because enough people feel left out and unheard that they're not going to vote, right? And there are also numerous different levels of voter suppression. And so I think that what you have when you have these movements like defund the police, you saw the greatest turnout, right, in the November election that we've seen in a long time. And you also saw particularly African-American voters in places like Georgia coming out to vote in record numbers. So even though in a place like Georgia, where suburban moms probably might have been scared shitless, you still have enough voters being inspired by that message of political change and wanting things to be altered and wanting that movement that they went out and voted for Democrats. So I just have to, I just agree with you on that, though.
Is there? Wait, do you think it's because of that, or do you think it's because of like Trump COVID stuff?
I think it's both. I mean, I think a large part of it, though, I mean, particularly in Georgia, I mean, part of it was there was a lot of good groundwork on rescinding a lot of Georgia's really strict voter suppression laws. But I think also, but I think a lot of, that just went out the window. Hopefully there will be a challenge to that by the ACLU, and we'll see what happens. But I mean, essentially, when it comes down to it, I think that there was that message of defund the police. I think that was at least, like, I think the optics of it could have been better. I think there would have been a better way of phrasing it.
The name
but
definitely was not the best,
I think the name, there could have been an alteration of the name, but I think the whole Black Lives Matter movement in general, I think that did help Democratic voters because it inspired a lot of people to get out and care about politics. I mean, I know I've seen like a lot of people around me are much more politically aware and 100%. Care a lot more about politics now that they've sort of seen the effect that politics can have on this country. They could see the effect of what happens when there's no political action, what can happen to an individual's life, and how necessary political action can become to see the change that you want in the world. So I think that it has been a boon to the Democrats, but I think that maybe there could be different optical changes. I mean, but overall, I'd say it's a net benefit.
I would say it all kind of comes down to the direction that like the Democratic Party wants to go in. It's like, does it want to, drift into the more suburban direction? Does it want to go, or does it kind of in the Stacey Abrams route, which is not necessarily, doing like super far left policies, but just running it like on the ground, like organizing based, door knocking all the time, 24/7 approach, like the wonderful Fair Fight initiative. And if you embrace Black Lives Matter, you're going to get a big result. For example, Jamie Harrison, the South Carolina candidate who, Jim Clyburn immediately after the election was like, this is the complete result of defund the police. It killed the Democrats in South Carolina. It was really tough for Jamie Harrison to defeat that. But the thing was, his poll numbers were highest in the summer, and there was a massive spikes in voter registration because Black Lives Matter is out there doing the voter registration on the ground during when the protests were happening. So like that is a perfect example of how much benefit I think the Democratic Party can get out of this grassroots politics that's going to really make a big difference. And you can have it for exciting things like movements like Black Lives Matter, or like, Obama even had this kind of stuff as well. But the question is, do you want to go in that direction? If you're in the leadership of the Democratic Party, pushing all the buttons, do you want to go in that direction? And I really just don't think that they do. I'd say that's probably where the biggest disconnect comes from. Like, Kate, do you or anyone can jump into this? Like, do you think the problem is like the broader like motivations of the Democratic Party? Like, how should we kind of, as like people probably consider ourselves to the left of the center of the Democratic Party, how do we interact with the mainstream Democratic Party?
I mean, like anything else, there's a mixture of compromise and opposition. You have to give resistance where you see it, and you have to compromise with them on different issues, and you just really have to advance your issues through getting the word out, trying to find alternative mediums to share your stories, and really engaging in sort of direct action. Those I think are the big ways to really interact in a healthy way that will advance leftist policies.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Do we see some sort of like Bernie like style campaign, or like a left wing campaign to challenge Biden in 2024 as being a good option?
I don't know who would run. Yeah,
I don't know who would run. That's the thing.
Biden's going to be like 100,000 years old by then. So like,
I pray he doesn't.
He said he's going to run again, though.
He said he would.
I'm going to kill myself.
He did, but let's see if that holds.
Yeah, it's all right.
He originally said he didn't want to, so he's flopped on this issue a little.
Yeah, well, if he doesn't run, we're just going to have everyone's favorite role model and criminal murderer, Kamala Harris. So.
Yeah, well, not murderers take it a little too far, but
dude, she literally withheld
Kamala
evidence
Harris,
that would have exonerated
if
someone.
That person was not executed.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
barely.
I forgot about that. I forgot about the death row guy. That's
Dude,
true.
but if you could come as
That's
close
so
to being a murderer without literally directly causing someone's death, come on.
The government
it's-
should not have the right to kill people. So,
Hell yeah,
homicidal negligence at least.
I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be really tough, very very tough. I think you couldn't even get the Democratic Party base to embrace her, during the primary campaign. It's going to
Kamala?
be very.
I
Yeah,
She got
don't-
shut down
yeah.
by freaking Tulsi Gabbard, who's like literally like
God.
a
little-
Charleston
a little
fanboy now.
crazy.
What the hell is she up to?
She's gone
crazy.
chilling out in Hawaii.
she's on an
Literally.
she's on an anti-trans crusade.
I would say that if Kamala Harris runs, there's going to be a fractious primary if there's a good candidate, and if there isn't and she wins, then I think she needs to be supported over the Republicans at all
Yeah.
costs.
Well, there's definitely a pragmatic argument where like the Republicans don't want to support like the Equality Act because they think like random people are gonna walk into like little girls' bathrooms and molest them. So I think once we differentiate ourselves from just like straight up bigots, there's a clash
Yeah.
to deal with. But
I have a question. Is there a big difference between the Equality Act and like the Equal Rights Amendment?
yeah, one of them is for women, one of them is for gender identity.
Okay. I just didn't. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, essentially the Equal Rights Amendment is really focused on sort of protecting women from violence and really focusing on establishing full equality between men and women.
Your mic
And
is
then
like
the...
terrible. What
Yeah,
the hell's going on?
Sorry. Okay, wait, is that better?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was laying on my pillow and I have AirPods. But anyways, the Equality Act is both gender identity and sexual orientation, essentially just enabling protections for that, just basically making them equal in the eyes of the law. You can't discriminate against people who have a different gender identity or sexual orientation from you.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
thankfully, because of a Supreme Court case, you can't fire a transgender person, but there still is not like against malls and general shops and stuff. So it's definitely necessary.
And it's not against. So that was, I think it was like Broward versus the United States or something like that.
I think it's something like that.
But the thing is with that, I mean, I heard some things about like challenges to that. Like there was this whole thing. So I think it's only under federal law where you can't fire it.
Mhm.
So if an institution receives federal funds or something like that, then it can be blocked. But like conservatives are talking about challenging that and bring it back to the Supreme Court essentially. And essentially, if they don't receive federal funds, if it's just like state level or like private, then there can be discrimination. It's only
We all
federal
know
level.
conservatives will refuse federal funds to make their. Especially, I mean, if we just look at the Medicare gap, literally refusing free money to make sure people don't have health care.
Yeah.
Thanks, Florida.
Yeah, it is going to be very, very interesting to see where this all goes from here. I think kind of a fun way, like wrap things up here would be to go around and either this could be either kind of like a prediction or a manifestation of what you want to see happen to keep it specific in politics in 1 year. Let's work our way up the list here this time. Let's start with Kenan.
Sorry, the question was what I want to see in a
what,
year?
Either what you see or you think will happen in politics in 1 year. What you want or you think will happen. Or both.
Those are different
I don't know.
questions for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know. More of the same, probably. Not much, honestly. I mean, yeah, not much. I don't know. Like, there's not a lot of things I could predict, but
Or like, what do you want to see happen? How about that?
what do I want to see? I want to see that $15 an hour passed. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 1 year. That's not a lot of time, but
What about 4 years?
Yeah, we could do 4 years.
4
How about
years.
that? Yeah.
4 years. 4 years. I would like to see another round of Justice Democrats get in. I mean, the more of them
how
we
about
have, the
that?
more bargaining power we have in the Democratic Party, for sure.
Yeah, and I would really like to see a candidate emerge that could. I don't know who that would be. To if
It's literally no one.
yeah, I don't know. Who
I like
it is.
Nina Turner. She has a lot of
Oh
charisma.
yeah, maybe Nina Turner.
Yeah, it's gonna be
But
great
she
to
doesn't
see
have
her
enough
in
clout
Congress.
to-
She's got to get.
Sure.
She'll be in Congress pretty soon, so I'm very excited for that. God bless. Hopefully, but Yeah. All right. Now, Kate, what are your thoughts on that?
So it's what we want to see in 4 years, right?
Yeah, we could do 4 years.
I mean, I'd really like to see. I'm just gonna stick to a year because I feel like that's easier. I really hope Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema somehow grow a heart, and essentially pass Ford's end to the filibuster, enabling the Equality Act and HR1 to be passed. Those would both be really cool to have, and those are really my two big hopes. Like, I know it's unlikely that they'll change, but I think those are both things that are possible to happen and things that I'd really like to see happen.
Yeah, that filibuster is really the key that unlocks so much for the Democrats in terms of passing their agenda as much as they can anyway before the midterms and even the campaigning begins. So, Eli, what are you hoping or predicting in the next year, or even if you want?
We didn't let Eli talk about how to make the Libertarian Party more successful.
Yeah, that's probably never gonna happen. So,
well, at least he's realistic.
I mean, it's probably not gonna happen for the super left either. So, we're in the same boat.
Whoa, dude! Market socialism is definitely gonna happen in this country. All right, stop burning my utopia, please.
Keep your hopes up, bud. It's never gonna happen. It's probably gonna maintain pretty much the status quo for our lifetime. I don't see any big changes.
Yeah, that's actually so true. It makes me sad.
Yeah, in terms of just...
But I hope that we can. I mean, I can say what I hope. I hope that we can have a better country with more, I guess, equality. I would say, get corporations out of politics. But yeah,
that's basic. Get rid of Citizens United, baby.
That would be nice.
Or overturned.
I mean, the Supreme Court has laid down that money is speech.
Yeah,
and there's not much you can do about that.
It's true.
But I don't know. Maybe we can solve our debt crisis because that's going to.
What's more important is that corporations are people, not that money is speech.
Yeah, I think you gotta do some sort of Woolpack, Cenk Uygur style congressional. I don't even know, but there's definitely HR1, as Kate said, would be a great help.
Cenk, Armenian genocide denier.
What?
Genocide?
What are you
Kenan,
talking
would you
about?
like to respond?
Kenan, do you have thoughts on the war? On the war?
It was a war. Things happen. That's all I gotta say.
That's all I have. No further comment.
All right, yeah.
Kenan, you have a comment on the Armenian genocide?
Well, yeah, Ken is
my Turkish father has a different opinion.
What does he believe?
Yeah, what?
He believes it was a war.
Okay,
Things
it was
happen.
the Holocaust war.
No. Holocaust, just the Armenian genocide.
There were genocide with the war too.
All right. All right, yeah.
No, I'm joking. Of course, I'm kidding.
All right, let's give James a chance to give his thoughts on the closing question.
So I did have some time. I wrote some stuff down in a bullet list during everyone else's recitation.
Oh my God.
I know, right? I know. So I would like to see the post-COVID cultural euphoria, which is a big thing that I'm looking forward to that I don't really.
Is that
think
like the Prague
about.
Spring?
Like,
interesting.
We're gonna finally get back to being able to freely go to things, concerts, stuff like that, and that's gonna improve the national mood extraordinarily, which I'm looking forward to. After a lot of major disasters like this, 9/11 probably being an exception because it was the response to that was horribly mishandled. There were, like after World War One, there was a big ass cultural
World War II,
the Roaring '20s. Kate, we're bringing back Art Deco.
Yes, exactly. We're bringing back Art Deco. This is something that I am firmly for. Okay.
Yeah.
We need to bring it back, and we need to bring back speakeasies. We need to bring back the Carlton
and the Flappers.
We need to bring back jazz bands and the Flappers.
Yeah.
And we need to do all of this. Yeah. Cocaine, just the regular stuff.
Hell yeah. I think cocaine should be legal.
I think
none of the politics, please.
All drugs should be legal.
Exactly.
Facts.
That's a victimless crime,
that's
dude.
the same thing.
I agree. I would also like to see Trumpism defeated or weakened.
Mm-hmm.
The filibuster needs to die. HR1 Medicare for all is like probably not going to happen in the next 4 years, but that's a wish.
Public option,
$15
maybe.
minimum wage, I think, is possible. Federal marijuana legislation, I think, is possible but not probable. Common sense gun reform is like.
I think the states will actually be legalizing weed because they need all the tax dollars they can get.
Yeah,
at this
gotta
point.
get
Yeah.
grubby little hands.
There's going to be waves of state legislation.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we got like
I need
crazy...
the anti-trans rights bills. They need to be defeated in court. Absolute, they're like draconian. And I might as well add on to that the new voting rights shit that the GOP is trying to do. That's like making it a misdemeanor to give food and water to people standing in line. Are you kidding me? Like, are you actually fucking kidding me? That's ridiculous. That's such an infringement on rights.
I'm
The
pretty sure
ACLU
you can like
needs to
fuck a
challenge
horse
that.
in 30 states.
Yeah. And
I think you should be able to
have you
fuck a
guys-
horse.
have you guys
whenever
ever
you
heard- you should be able
want.
to
Have you guys
Fuck
ever
a
heard
horse
of the
too,
Unum
but-
Class?
I don't know
sex
about
I mean, you would
Have you guys ever
literally
heard
die.
of the Unum Class sex incident?
The what?
The
I
Unum
know someone
Claw
got
horse
fucked.
sex incident.
Someone got fucked by a horse and they died.
Yeah.
Got fucked? You mean like they got raped? Like what?
No, it was
Okay,
consensual.
okay.
It was consensual.
It was very yeah, but the guy was a Boeing engineer, and he
What?
essentially had anal sex with a horse, and he ruptured his intestine and died.
A Boeing engineer?
What?
And that is why that led to the passage of a bill in Washington which prohibited sex with animals.
What?
Interesting.
That's
Wow.
bullshit.
That ruined it for everybody.
Don't regulate people's ability to kill themselves by horse sex.
I feel like if you want to have sex with a horse and you die, that's 100%.
What a way to go out, if you ask me.
That is
wow.
But like, can the horse really consent though? That's the question.
So what? It's a fucking horse. What is it gonna do?
Yeah, Ken, we're vegan, yeah, so
Uh-huh.
get it. No.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody
I was
that
thinking about
horses.
animal.
That's true.
rights.
Wait, do you guys think horse racing is okay?
That's a good question, actually. I don't
If
know.
it's done humanely, if they're not like fucking
I'm not
abusing
talking about like
horses.
murdering them after.
I
they
mean,
break their
I
leg.
used to
Ugh.
love horse racing because my mom's really into it. So we used to go to the Belmont Stakes a bunch,
Okay.
and I used to do like betting there and stuff. So I used to really like it, but like thinking about it as I have been, it just I don't know. I don't think I could really ethically support
Yeah,
it
probably
anymore.
not.
What about like ethically sourced eggs?
No. Well, me and Kate are vegan. so
Yeah.
we don't.
I'm
I have a
I'm-
question.
I'm
Wait,
like
so
a vegan.
Oh, I have a
maybe
question
in
about
10
like
years.
veganism.
why is it wrong to eat eggs though?
Because the way they get eggs essentially.
Oh, I know,
Just
not like
for start
factory.
out-
Like I know that's horrible, but I just mean like if you had like a chicken that you like raised.
You just
or
have a
whatever.
chicken like chilling, and then like pops an egg out, and then you just
Yeah, I mean like I have friends who have chickens, so
I mean,
Like,
I'm
I
actually,
don't know,
I'm
like-
actually okay with like things like if you are like a small hunter and you eat the entire animal and you like do it for sustenance, I'm okay with that, right? Like if you're a nomadic tribe and you want to hunt in like for sustenance, I'm fine with that. If you raise your own chicken and you want eggs from that, I'm fine. My problem is generally with the factory farm industry.
I agree, actually.
And so essentially all of our food comes from this
Literally
industry.
everything,
We live in a metropolitan area. I don't have my own chicken. So if I had my own chicken, sure, maybe I'd enjoy an omelet here and there. But since I can only get my eggs from the factory farm industry, I do not want
I mean,
that.
is
Yeah,
it like
I
a
think,
climate thing or like
that
an
are
ethical
sourced
thing?
humanely.
Mostly climate, but I guess you can
Okay.
also do ethics.
Yeah, I know.
Climate,
There's usually like
ethical.
two camps. I feel like.
What
Or
about,
some,
like-
some both? But-
What about a
I mean, the times
steak
for-
that was grown in a lab?
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
That is based.
That's fine.
And I would. Yeah, everyone should
I'd
eat
eat
that.
I would be
I
fascinated
would
to try
be so
that.
down. I'd be so
Because
down.
I know that technology is just about to break through. Like they've been
Oh, yeah.
growing. I know actually on sale there's like chicken nuggets that have been grown in a lab. They put some breading on it, they put it in a package, and they sell it.
Yeah, there was some that was
Fun.
recently, I believe, in like Singapore
know.
or Hong Kong or something like that just came through. But if
Mhm.
they make that like buyable by like
Oh my
normal
god,
people-
I hate Singapore. What
Yeah,
a horrible country.
Singapore is very
Fuck
scary.
Singapore.
But that's another place. But Zach, you want to give your
Izzy lived there for like 11 years, right?
yeah?
What? No,
yeah.
it's a death penalty for drugs.
Oh no.
Wait, what do you
Also,
mean?
I don't
something
think
about
you're
is
allowed to chew
someone
gum
who
there.
lived there. Yeah, like that's always the thing.
Oh.
Like if you
Someone who
spit it out-
lived there for like 11 years.
Yeah, I gotta ask you about
Yikes.
that. Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
Zach,
just
do you want to
agree
give your
on right
predictions or hopes or whatever?
Predictions? I don't know. I'm like thinking very short term, so I hope the union vote passes. I hope HR1 passes.
Are there polling for the union vote? Or...
I don't
No,
know.
that's just like it's just
I
like
haven't seen
6,000
any,
people.
so I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think like you would either have to get like too large of a sample size so that it would be like the actual vote, or too
just
small
get,
so
like,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
apparently,
don't
like
know.
there's like a bunch of people, like there's like people who are like strongly against it, and there's people who are like strongly for it. But like the middle is like the people who are like scared of the national attention, but also kind of want the union, but maybe they don't. Like that's the persuadable group there. That's going to be very interesting.
Do
to
they
see what
have?
happens.
How is the voting? Because I know they're hiring like cops or Amazon is. So
Yeah,
are they gonna like? Is it gonna be a fair vote?
You can do it by mail, I believe. So, but the thing is, like
okay.
they're like pressuring you to like to also like to drop your mail off.
Is the Amazon
the big
drone gonna
box.
deliver it?
Yeah, exactly. That's like,
Okay.
that's the scary thing about it all.
I haven't really read about this. Like, why is Amazon allowing this to happen? Is this like
Pretty much,
I don't think
well,
it's
they have
illegal
they
for
have
them
no
to-
choice. Yeah, like they try.
I mean,
they
they're doing
appeal.
they're doing everything they legally can to make sure it doesn't happen.
So like they legally can't just like stop the vote? Is that
No,
I think
yeah.
that's
But what they can do
I don't know
is
what law
fire
that's against,
everybody.
but it's definitely legal.
Yeah,
They
what they can
can't?
do is fire everybody like after the thing happens. But and they
Wait, are
probably
you
will.
saying can or can't?
They
they
can
can?
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
probably.
probably why Amazon wants to go to like autonomous. They'll just have like self-driving cars be delivering all these packages.
While we all
The
live
next
in
10 years.
poverty, and the 1% gets their packages delivered on Amazon drones.
True.
Yeah, that's gonna be the
Obviously,
whole,
the economy
Yeah.
will adjust.
Do you say the economy?
The economy will adjust.
What are they gonna do?
Yes, dude. This always happens. This also happened with the Industrial Revolution. Everyone's like, "We're all going to lose our jobs," and then nobody
I think
actually
this is a bit
lost their jobs.
too-
It's just transitioned.
Wait, Eli, I have a
yeah.
question.
It's probably gonna transition to some
What do you
degree,
think
but-
about UBI? Do you think that's like the most fairest
Yes,
form of welfare?
I would support UBI if all the other programs were cut.
Okay, that seems fair enough.
Yeah, all
I mean,
right.
I would like more, but I think that's the best concession I'm gonna get out of you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just in my belief, it's the best form of like social welfare, I guess you would call it.
Yeah. All right. On that
Cool.
note, I will I'll share my hope and my prediction. And my prediction is that we will be doing a lot more news flashes in the future. Maybe even 500 more. No, don't even say that. And my hope is that
1,000 more.
everyone who joined us today has a great rest of their day and will come back soon. So thank you guys for making Newsflash that much better by coming on various times over these like last 4 years I've been doing this. So very, very incredible and appreciative of all of you guys. So thank you very much for listening and to 500 more. And this has been Newsflash.